Have you ever wondered if there's a real science to understanding stories? Well, today, that's exactly what we're digging into. We're going to see how researchers can take all that messy, complicated stuff of human experience and turn it into clear, powerful insights. Oh man, we have all been there, right? You're done with your meal, you're ready to leave, and you're just stuck. You try to be patient, but as those minutes tick by, you can feel that slow burn of frustration building. I mean, this one sentence, you can almost feel the entire story.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? One story, that's just an anecdote. But what happens when you have hundreds or even thousands of them? How do you get past all the individual complaints to find the common threads, the real reasons people get upset? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve today.
So, to crack this case, we're going to follow a really fascinating study. The goal was simple: figure out what really makes customers angry. And their method was brilliant. They decided to just collect stories, tons and tons of personal accounts of truly terrible service. And this is where we meet the star of our show, qualitative data. Now, unlike numbers on a spreadsheet, this is the messy, real-life stuff, data in the form of words. It's rich, it's super detailed, and let me tell you, it is incredibly hard to analyze in a systematic way. And the researchers, they didn't just get a handful of stories. Nope. They collected 859 of them. Just try to imagine a giant stack of 859 detailed emotional stories about everything from horrible meals to messed up bank transactions. Talk about information overload. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. How do you take all of that raw, emotional, human language and turn it into something you can actually measure and act on? I mean, you can't just read them all and go with a gut feeling. You need a system. And that system, it turns out, has 3 core steps. Think of it like a process for taking a mountain of words and carefully sifting through it to find the little nuggets of gold inside. First, you reduce the data. Then, you display it. And finally, you draw your conclusions. Let's see how they did. Okay, so this first phase, data reduction, is basically detective work. It's all about taking these long, winding stories and finding the essential clues that are hidden inside. So data reduction is all about getting focused. You're not looking at every single word. Instead, you're carefully selecting the important bits, you're giving them a code or a label, and then you start grouping similar codes together into bigger categories. And this right here, this is where the magic happens. Look at that story on the left. The researchers didn't just see a complaint. They saw specific failures. That waitress's nod, that's a broken promise. Her chatting at the bar, that's a failure of personal attention. And boom, just like that, the messy story gets broken down into 2 simple, powerful codes. So after coding all 859 stories, which, wow, that's a lot of work, the researchers had hundreds of these little data points. The next job was to organize everything so they could finally see the big picture. And this is where the patterns really start to pop. By taking all those individual codes and displaying them visually, in a chart or a table, all the noise starts to fade away. And for the very first time, you can actually see the shape of the problem. This slide shows you just how powerful this whole process is. From almost 900 stories, the researchers identified almost 900 distinct problem behaviors. But here's the amazing part. They were able to group all of that complexity into just 28 subcategories. It's like a funnel, turning all that chaos into pure clarity. So after all that detective work, what did they find? The mystery is finally solved. They managed to boil down all 859 stories into just 4 fundamental reasons that customers get angry. And here they are. First up, you've got procedural failures. That's when the system itself is just broken. Think being stuck on hold for 3 days straight. Second, interactional failures. This one's personal. It's when you feel totally ignored or treated rudely. Third is outcome failures. Pretty simple. You just didn't get what you paid for. And finally, the one that really adds insult to injury, inadequate response, when their attempt to fix the problem just makes things even worse. But check out how these stack up. What's amazing is that the top 2 causes have nothing to do with the final product. Procedural and interactional failures, the process, account for over 60% of all the complaints. And that's the core insight right there. How a company does something can be even more important than what it actually does. The process is everything. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this all a bit subjective? How do we know these categories are real and not just one person's opinion? And you know what? That's a fantastic question, and this process has a really smart answer for it. It's a concept called interjudge reliability, and basically it means you have different researchers, or judges, all code the same stories without talking to each other. And if they all come up with pretty much the same codes and categories, then you know your system is objective and you can trust it. And in this study, the level of agreement between the different judges was 84%. In this kind of research, anything at or above 80% is considered excellent, the gold standard. So that number proves how rigorous this method is. It's a truly trustworthy system. And this really brings us to the most important point. Because this method, it's about so much more than just customer complaints. It's a powerful engine for turning any collection of human stories into structured, actionable wisdom. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, we've seen that you can analyze messy stories with real objective rigor. Second, there's a clear process to turn that chaos into clear insights you can actually use. And most importantly, this gives us a key to unlock a deeper understanding of almost any complex human experience. When you think about it, this whole process is like a blueprint for understanding. It was used here to decode the anatomy of anger, which is amazing. But just imagine where else it could be used. Patient experiences in hospitals, public opinion on social issues. What other huge libraries of human stories are just sitting out there, waiting for a system like this to help us finally understand them?